Greetings, ladies and gentlemen of the internet, Jan Michael here. Like I mentioned back in my Hamnet review, this last Oscar season wasn't my best in predicting what I thought was going to be huge Oscar contenders and what was going to fall off by the wayside. Paul Thomas Anderson's newest film, One Battle After Another, I thought was going to be a dud. Not that it wouldn't get any nominations, but I don't think it was going to be this huge juggernaut that some people thought it was going to be. I mean, first and foremost, that trailer, I still argue, is not all that great. Mix that with a real kind of love-hate relationship with a lot of his films. For instance, Licorice Pizza, which, yes, I do argue is a good film. It just wasn't for me, and I felt that a lot of the Oscar voters kind of followed suit. Heck, it didn't even go on to win the Screenplay Award, instead going to Belfast. Phantom Thread was also a unique little picture, but I never really had any desire to revisit it. Really going back into Paul's entire filmography, there's only a small handful of films that I truly do think are masterpieces and I can watch over and over again. So yeah, I wasn't really looking forward to going in and seeing what One Battle After Another had to offer. But as you know, I was absolutely wrong, because not only do I think this is one of Paul's best films ever, but I truly do think, like many of you, this is a shoo-in to win Best Picture at the Oscars. Why is that the case? Well, let's dive into my review to find out.
Rise and shine.
Pat an eyelash.
Good morning.
There are no hands on the clock
Why?
because they're not needed.
What time is it?
I don't remember that part. All right, let's just not nitpick over the passwords.
Leonardo DiCaprio, to me as an actor, has always really only portrayed two roles, like that badass heartthrob type of hero and the lovable doofus. I always preferred him in the latter roles, as I do think they give him the ability to range more with his acting. You definitely have more of a personality from him rather than when he's just stoic or just the typical good-looking guy. And here in One Battle After Another, it's no exception. He is absolutely a blast to follow because he is this dummy who is kind of floundering his way through all the scenarios that he finds himself in. Leo plays Bob Ferguson, an ex-revolutionary explosives expert who found himself not wanting to be in that life anymore after having his daughter come into his life. Going into hiding for many years, he's forced to reckon with his past when his daughter is kidnapped, and it's up to him to save her. Or at least that's what the film would have you believe. But Bob has seen better days, and fatherhood has made him fearful of his family being caught in the crossfires of his previous actions. So once the adventure starts, he has to find the courage to dive into this world again in order to save his daughter. Yet he's constantly messing things up and having to be saved by those around him, which is actually really hilarious. Like, to me, this is one of the most realistic interpretations of a character in this scenario. Like, you want him to be this action type hero, this badass who, yes, is a little bit of a dummy, but still, rises up to the occasion and is able to make a difference. And that's just not the type of character this is. In fact, once the whole film is said and done, if you take a step back and really think about the impact that Bob had on the overall story, it's not a lot. And that's actually what makes it so funny. This is a believable person, someone who does care about the family, his daughter. He wants to save him. He's gonna take action even though he's absolutely terrified, but he doesn't really have the skills or really remember those skills anymore to be able to really make much of an impact or difference. And that's just absolutely great. It makes it feel so much more believable, and you can just relate to this type of character. I mean, after all he wants to do is just relax, smoke pot, and just make sure his family is safe at the end of the day. Who doesn't feel some sort of empathy towards that? There is so much that goes on in One Battle After Another that to go over it all would be quite daunting. So I guess I'll start with this. The film is based off the book Vineland, which I only read a synopsis of, and from what I understand is somewhat different from the film. The characters and themes are similar, but just about everything else has been altered in some way. Essentially, the film is about how revolution is never over. There's always going to be another battle that is gonna need to be fought, especially when corruption is in power. And the actions of the past will always catch up to you in some way or form, despite which side of the argument you happen to land on. While this is a political film, it's not one that glorifies any one side. It shows the destructive nature that both these sides can bring about, even to their own. It's quite complex, and this overview is only really a tiny bit of the overall plot, but the good news is that even if you don't want to think too heavily on those themes, this can still be enjoyed as an action film with plenty of comedic elements. The antagonist is terrifying, you can sympathize with the protagonist, the action is exciting, and the comedy hits. And sometimes that's all you really need from a film. You can easily dive into this with just wanting those things and be satisfied. But if you want to dig deeper, it's there, and it will definitely get your brain racing and thinking about all of the events that happen on screen. There's also plenty of witty, sharp, funny dialogue all throughout the film, which, you know me, I'm always a big fan of those type of scripts. So long story short, this is an excellent nomination and potential win that is going to go to the screenplay. What a fantastic cast of characters these are, and a lot of them are nominated for their respective roles. You got Leonardo DiCaprio as the protagonist, you got Tiana Taylor, you've got the double supporting actor nominations of Sean Penn, who is freaking terrifying, as well as Benicio del Toro, who is pretty funny, probably the funniest of the film. And it's not just them either, you have a ton of other great characters which people have spoken at lengths about. Many people speak really highly of Regina Hall as Deandra, who has been looking out for Bob and his daughter and comes to the rescue once the main plot of the film starts to take off. And speaking of Bob's daughter, Willa, she is played by newcomer Chase Infinity, who was this close to an Oscar nomination herself. Ultimately, I do think these characters are underutilized somewhat, which I do think is a bit of a problem. I mean, technically, I also think Benicio is underutilized, but at least he was incredibly funny during his scenes. Regina shows up, does very little in the grand scheme of things. She's only really there for one thing, and that's about it. And the ending of her arc is a major bummer when you stop to think about it. Chase does have more to do, but a lot of her scenes play out with her making faces rather than delivering any solid dialogue. I definitely wanted a bit more from her, but at the very least, she has a really cool moment towards the very end. And that's the big selling point here. Even when the characters aren't fully fleshed out or are underutilized, you still have cool moments with them and want to see more of them. That's a sign of great writing, great performances, and that all comes down to great casting. There's a lot of really cool shots in one battle after another, but the one that most people will no doubt be talking about is the final chase scene where you have the rolling hills in the distance just bobbing up and down as you wait for something or someone to appear. It's such a mesmerizing effect and one that I never experienced before while watching a film, or at least not one that I remember. And for that, cinematographer Michael Bowman hands down deserves this nomination. He proves that there's still ways that films can wow us and hypnotize us with their creativity, and if he goes on to win, it would definitely be a worthy victory. Paul Thomas Anderson's directing here is intense. From the opening get-go to the epic finale, the film barely ever stops to catch its breath, only doing so in small, intimate moments that feel more like brief pauses to catch our breath before immediately going back into the insanity of it all, as if the film is in a hurry to get somewhere, and that usually is somewhere pretty damn awesome. I read that Paul actually encouraged his actors to improvise at points to promote spontaneity, and I feel that probably led to some of the funnier moments of the film, as there were moments that felt like the actors did something that was extra for the film. This could have easily led to some distractions, but as I said, it most likely helped contribute to the comedy and fleshing out of the characters. Plus, with this talented cast, they were able to flow into the scenes very nicely with those added bits. It's also cool that Paul didn't rely on studio sets, but instead focused on actual locations across California to tell the story without showing the romanticized coastal setting that the state is known for. It helped contribute to the grittiness that needed to be displayed, as the film does get quite dark and violent at points. Paul has been honing his craft for some time now, and this is further proof that this is a man that was born to do this type of work. Similar to the style of the overall film, the editing here is frantic and all over the place in its energy, but in a purposeful sense. I mentioned this type of style in Marty Supreme as well, where you don't expect that type of editing to take place with the story it tells. Here, it is most definitely expected with how the story progresses. Editor Andy Jurgensen has been editing Paul Thomas Anderson films since Inherent Vice, and similar to what I said about Paul's directing style, Andy has also been honing his craft, ultimately reaching an explosive effort here that has finally nabbed him his first Oscar nomination and potential win. Okay, so far I think we've all been on the same page. I'm talking about how great the film is, all the components of the film, and you're on board, right? You're all like, yeah, man, this guy gets it. He knows what he's talking about. We all agree one battle after another is amazing, all of its elements. Well, are you ready to finally be pissed off at me? Because I'll be honest, I didn't like the score. And I know everybody loved the score. I mean, even piece of shit Ben Shapiro in his stupid review liked the score, so what the fuck is wrong with me, right? Look, I'm weird, okay? You know that about me, I'm fucking weird. I've talked about how previous year scores weren't my favorite, even though they were other people's favorites, and music is the one area that I can't quite tell you why something works or doesn't. I'm just going off of what I personally like here. And to be fair, I'm not saying the score is bad. In fact, I'm pretty sure it is great due to how many people are absolutely singing its praises. It just doesn't appeal to me. So I'm just gonna shut up now about this topic and move on, which coincidentally is also what Ben Shapiro needs to be doing with his life. Yeah, let's move on. Ooh, okay, so here's another one that I'm just not quite too sure about. Like, don't get me wrong, there are some cool production designs here. Like, I really liked the look of the dojo and the weird underground white supremacist club, but everything else is fine. Like, it's not bad. It does its job. And look, how cool is it that a contemporary film got this nomination when they typically don't? But I'm just kind of failing to see what's so amazing here. I did read that most people are praising the realisticness and the grittiness of the sets that Florencia Martin and Anthony Carlino built here, which, look, sure, but again, like, I just didn't think there was anything here that grand. And here, another praise to them. Awesome. They didn't use like actual studio sets. They actually went to the locations, built the sets there. That's praiseworthy. In the sense of the film itself, however, I just didn't think there was anything here that other films hadn't done before. So yeah, the subtlety just maybe lost on me here, but you know, what do you guys think? Is this another one where I'm just batshit crazy? Most likely. With as much action as one battle after another contains, it would be a shame if the sound didn't live up to the expectation the film presents. And luckily it does. Sound designer Christopher Scarabosio worked on the sound here with Jose Antonio Garcia and Tony Villaflor. Now, Christopher has previously been nominated for Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, and The Force Awakens, and There Will Be Blood, all of which have fantastic sound designs to them. Like, if you want to dig deeper into the style of the sound, you'll find how insane the thought process was when building the sound around the film score, emotions of the characters, and much more. But if that's a bit too much, like, you're still gonna appreciate how bombastic it all is, and you're gonna be sucked in by the experience. With sound, you just want it to sound cool to your ears, right? That's exactly what you're getting here. As I mentioned previously, the Academy deemed it worthy to not just nominate one supporting actor in this category, but two. So let's start off with the one that I think is the weaker of the two, Benicio del Toro. Not because he's bad by any means, but because I wanted so much more of him. Playing Sergio, a karate instructor for Bob's daughter and a revolutionary who ensures that undocumented workers are safe from the mistreatment of the police force, he is one of the funniest characters in the film. While Bob is more of a spaz that is constantly stressed out and wondering what he's going to do next, Sergio is more the calm and collected type that always seems to have a backup plan set up in his mind. He's cool and often funny demeanor made me want to know more about him, and the reason he's willing to go to such lengths to help Bob out. I also don't like where his arc ends, if I'm being honest, as similar to Regina's character. It's kind of sad when you think about, but he's just so awesome. He has some of the best moments in the movie, and like I said, I wanted more out of him. In the grand scheme of things, just because of the length of the film, you really only get a small handful of time with this guy, but man, is it time well worth spent. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have Sean Penn, who plays the antagonist, Colonel Stephen J. Lockjaw, a military officer who's willing to do whatever it takes for him to get into a certain club, including kill and torture members of the revolution. The central antagonist to the tale, Lockjaw starts off as just another corrupt officer until his interest is piqued in a way that actually surprised me. From that point on, you see the depth of his depravity and how terrifying someone in power can truly get, especially when trying to achieve their goals. And Sean brings it, being the standout performance of the film. He's the one that you fully remember coming out of the theater. The one that seems all too real, especially in the political climate we're in right now. He's my choice for the best supporting performance of the year for what he manages to achieve, and would be worthy of being compared to the other great villain Oscar winners as well. Moving on over to the supporting actress train, we're going to take a look at Teyana Taylor, who, similar to Benicio del Toro, made quite an impression, but is gone all too soon. Playing Deandra, Taylor's character is quite a firecracker that knows exactly what she wants and will do what is necessary to achieve it, sometimes resulting in the worst possible outcomes. It's a very flawed character that shows the extremes of what this side of the fence looks like and how there are monsters no matter where you land. Yet, despite the flaws, she is still such an interesting character in how she approaches situations and interacts with those around her, to the point that as soon as she leaves the film, you miss her. Like, you know her being present would end up causing more harm than not, but you can't help but think of her as the film plays out. That being said, I do think there is one small thing that kind of taints her character, and funny enough, it's not that they make her completely irredeemable, it's that it presents her as being possibly redeemable, which I think completely goes against what her character is. Like, it's too pretty for what this character has been through and what she's done, and I didn't really think they needed to go that route. That being said, though, it is just a minor gripe. I do think Teyana does an amazing job, and like I said, as soon as she's gone, you miss her. You wanted to see more of her, and that itself shows that it's an interesting character that is played very well. Do I even need to ask the question? I mean, we all know this is gonna go on to win Best Picture. I mean, unless Sinners pulls off a fast one, which is very much a possibility. As of right now, this filmmaking, I think it's all in the bag for One Battle After Another. And you know what? That is going to be a fantastic win. Is it my personal favorite film of the year? No, that still goes to Sinners, but One Battle is a close second. So on that note, this is an awesome win. I'd be completely happy to see it. This is a film that you can easily rewatch again and again, and you're going to spot something new each time you watch it. I know I'm not done with it. I hope many other people discover it. I hope you share it with others. And with that being said, yeah, there's just nothing more I can say other than congratulations, One Battle After Another. Unless Sinners wins, in which case this is going to age really poorly. Winning the battle, I give One Battle After Another a 4.5 out of 5 with a recommendation to buy it. Those completely blinded by politics may find too much stimulation to fully enjoy it, but for those that can put that aside or have an intelligent conversation, will find much to appreciate here. Light up a joint, hold your family close, and see if you're ready to join this revolution.
Not one thing, it's another. Find that to be true.
I need you, brother. Please, Sensei, please.
Courage, Bob. Courage.
That's it. Courage. Yeah. Thank you. Hey, thank you, Sensei. Thank you, Sensei. Thank you. God damn it! Viva la revolution!
And there you have it, everybody. Your best picture winner, right? Right? Well, okay, right. We gotta take Sinners seriously, and quite honestly, if I were to choose a winner, it would definitely go to Sinners. Seeing as we haven't gotten to that review yet, there is still plenty of excitingness coming. So if you were just waiting for this one because you know it was gonna win and then we're gonna fuck off, don't do that. Come back. There's still plenty of content coming. So come back tomorrow. It's not Sinners, not yet, but we're getting there. So please join me tomorrow for our next Oscar review. Until then, everybody, stay safe out there and have a good one.